Hello everybody and welcome back to Odin's movie blog. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope you're doing well, and today I'm finally going to be giving you my official predictions for what I think the box office for Brie Larson's Captain Marvel is going to be. But also, it is time to talk about the truth. It is time to get the truth out there. It's time to drop some truth bombs on these crazy people in the media and all these people on social media trying to say, oh no, it's just a bunch of, oh my goodness, everything going on with Captain Marvel right now, it's all a bunch of, a bunch of white man babies and a bunch of sexist. Where have we heard this before? Oh wait, that's right, Star Wars. So it's interesting how very similar the paths of at least Captain Marvel is taking compared to the path that Star Wars took, especially when it came to fan reaction and overall fan interactions. It's very interesting. However, I think it is time to dispel with all of the nonsense, to just talk about the facts, what we know, what we can know, and just the truth of the matter. So, as we see up here, Screen Rant says Captain Marvel is becoming the MCU's most controversial movie, but it really shouldn't be. Oh, really? I love all of this journalism going on right now. Thomas Bacon. I love it. I love it. I am an objective journalist, and I'm going to go through all of these points, and I'm going to make it very clear that these are a bunch of white toxic males who are driving down the score. Yeah, sure. Let's go down some of the most, the main points that he's making. So Captain Marvel seems to be becoming the MCU's most divisive movie. It is the MCU's most divisive movie, and for no real reason at all, really. No reason at all. God. Starts off with a lie. It's great to me that this article, again, this journalistic integrity article, is starting off with a blatant lie. There is absolutely a reason why this movie is becoming divisive, and has everything to do with Brie Larson opening up her damn mouth about white men and how, I don't hate white men. If you have to say to yourself, I don't hate white men 3 times in a speech that is talking specifically about white men, it might start to make me think that, you're tripling down on that, and I really don't believe everything that you're saying right now. But it's interesting, again, starting off with a lie. Perfect. After 11 years, Marvel Studios is finally producing a solo film starring a female superhero. And there you have it right there, folks. There's no reason why this is a problem, and then you just said the reason why this is a problem. The fact that the studio, the fact that Brie Larson, the fact that you in the media, Screen Rant, all comicbook.com, all of these shill media sites have from day one been running with the, oh my gosh, it's the first ever female-led MCU film, the first ever female-led, female, hurro. The fact that you've been driving that point home since day one, every single damn day, and on top of that, but also you're going after people because you're claiming them to be sexist for complaining about it, it's just ridiculous to me. No. If you had just said, Captain Marvel's coming out, and this is her story, this is what might seem interesting, no one would be having this discussion right now. Had Brie Larson not said the stupid comments about white men, we would not be having this discussion right now. All of this nonsense, all of this craziness going and surrounding the Rotten Tomatoes numbers, surrounding the box office projections, has only to do with 2 things: Brie Larson and the media spin. Those are the 2 things. I would say third, probably also the studio, because the studio has also made it very clear that that is the direction that they want to go in as well, as I've talked about plenty on previous videos. But it's just amazing to me that the media are just going out of their way to lie, to act like, there's no problem here. Most people are not, oh no, this is a small group and everything's been fine. But then in the first 2 sentences, you not only get a blatant lie, but then you also get the very reason, or one of the main reasons why there is controversy in the first place. And no, it's not because, you're so mad because she's a woman. No, I'm mad because you cannot stop obsessing over the fact that she's a woman. We're mad because every single damn article about this movie has to mention at some point, she is a woman. She is a female. Did you know? Did you know that she's a hero? Did you know that she's a female? And people don't want to be preached to. Notice how in Wonder Woman, even with a name like Wonder Woman, in no point in their marketing did they say, did you realize that she's a woman? Did you realize that she's a woman? Seriously, at no point, which is why no one went after that film. That film made over $800 million at the box office, and that film is still, to this day, even with all of this nonsense, viewed in a very positive light. And yet, somehow I'm sexist. Somehow I'm the problem. Somehow I'm the one who has the issue. Somehow it's only white male trolls that are going after Captain Marvel. Well, really, they must have taken a day off then for Wonder Woman, if that's the case. For Wonder Woman, they must have been like, no, we're going to skip this one. We're going to skip this one. They must have checked their misogyny. They must have checked their white privilege and their misogyny on that day, on that entire time, for that entire year as that film was being promoted. They must have been doing that. Oh, yeah, sure. God, these people are idiots. And anyone that's buying into their narrative, anyone that's buying into their idiocy, I'm sorry, but you're no better than they are. Unfortunately, in Marvel fan communities, Captain Marvel is becoming incredibly controversial. In some places online, it's impossible to even mention the film without the discussion becoming a litany of complaints, as people fume over everything from radical feminism to rampant misandry. Well, look at the comments. They, I think, speak for themselves. Some are fearing there'll be a repeat of the Ghostbusters effect, with bad PR leading to poor box office performance, or perhaps a backlash like the one that left Star Wars fans bitterly divided after Star Wars: Last Jedi. But not only are those fears overstated, in this case, the trolls are working up over nothing. No. Once again, there are no trolls here. There are human beings. There are human beings who are sick and tired of being preached to. There are human beings. Thank you for bringing up 2016 Ghostbusters. Let's bring that up again. That movie failed because it was woke, because there was an agenda, because there was no reason for that film to exist, because they did a gender swap for the sake of doing a gender swap, saying, oh, look, women can do it too. And guess what? Audiences didn't want it. Men, women of every race and of every color said, no, I do not want to see this nonsense. No, I do not want to support this nonsense, and it lost money at the box office. And now you're trying to say, like, oh, it was because of bad PR. No, it was bad PR, but also fan backlash saying, we do not want this. Thank you for bringing up Star Wars: Last Jedi. Okay, yeah, you want to know what happened with that? You remember what happened when that film came out? Oh, wait, that's right. In its wake, Solo lost $200 million at the box office. But no, oh, no, the trolls are getting worked up over nothing, and no, that's overstated. You can't compare the two. Oh, really? You know what? To be honest, I was actually going to do more with this article, but I'm just done with it. I seriously, like, you can read it for yourself, but seriously, they go through every point trying to say, oh, she's not a sexist. This isn't misandry. She's saying, oh, Brie Larson's being taken out of context, everybody. And one more thing. So, going into the comment where she says, oh, my press days are becoming overwhelmingly white male, and so I decided to make sure my press days were more inclusive. After speaking with you, the film critic, Valerie Complex, and a few other women of color, it sounded like across the board weren't getting the same opportunities as others. When I talked to the facilities, they weren't providing it. They all had different excuses. And so then they basically say, because that's something that we've been saying, hey, guess what? She made it very clear. She does not have a really fond view of white men. And then this person, this is a hardly misandry, or however you pronounce it. Larson's problem isn't that she doesn't want to see white men in the audience. It's that she wants to see women as well as men and people of every racial background. No. Once again, speaking of taking things out of context, she wasn't talking about audience. She was not talking about audience. She was talking about the press pool. She was talking about people that are interviewing her. So, speaking of spin, there you go right there. Of every racial background. What I'm looking for is to bring more seats up to the table. She was forced to clarify. No one is getting their chair taken away. There's a lot less, there's not less seats at the table. There's just more seats at the table. Well, unless this is a table that can just sporadically grow, I don't really know what the point you're trying to make there with even your clarification. Because last time I checked, if you have 5 seats at the table, if you can only choose 5 people to interview on a given day, and because of your wokeness, you're like, oh, I was going to have these many people. Oh, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to go to all the people who are, I'm going to go to the minorities because, oh my gosh, I'm just a white girl. I'm just a prissy white girl. I need to take care of these people. They can't do it on their own. They can't make it on their own, so I'm going to help them. If that is not condescending, I don't know what the hell else is. But again, what you're doing then is you are making choices based on race. You are looking at your day saying, oh, these are the people who want to interview me. Okay, I'm going to choose you, and you. So this whole, oh, I'm just adding more seats to the table is just a completely bizarre and completely irrelevant metaphor. It doesn't work. It doesn't work because guess what? Your day is indeed limited by the amount of people that you can interview, or that you will allow to interview you, is the more accurate statement there. And then, how fans are trying to hurt Captain Marvel with the Rotten Tomatoes. And then, of course, he says, oh, that doesn't matter. Well, this is great. Yes, the user ratings for Rotten Tomatoes. It is now 37%. Only 37% of 28,000 people want to go see this movie. That's some people say, oh, it's just a bunch of trolls. Sure, if it was a bunch of trolls, then why is it that when the same thing happened in Solo, A Star Wars Story, it lost $200 million at the box office. Why is it then that when the same thing happened, when the interested rate was really dropping and was really low before Solo came out, why is it that that film made $600 million less than any other Disney Star Wars movie? Oh yeah, but it was only trolls, it was only bots. Remember the Russian bot scandal, everything? Oh my gosh, it was just Russian bots and everything like that. They will make up every and any excuse in the book to try and say this doesn't mean anything. Of course this means something. What this means is that there is a large portion of people out there that either have no interest in seeing this film or at least have reservations about seeing this film because of the stupid things that Brie Larson has said. And on top of that, because of the way the media has continued to try and spin this story. By trying to say, oh, only 28,000. What we have here, guys, is a case of over 28,000 white supremacists and white misogynists who are going out of their way to attack this movie because she's a woman. Then why in the hell didn't these people go after Wonder Woman? Because if we're talking about white supremacy and, misogyny, why in the hell didn't they go after Gal Gadot? Why in the hell didn't they go after her? Oh, wait, that's right. Because she did not bring politics into her movie. Brie Larson did. Again, let's just talk about the facts. Let's just talk about what is actually going on here. Now, is this going to have an impact on the box office? I think it will, and I'll get to that in a second. But it's still interesting to me. Because I think Solo Star Wars Story is a perfect example of what to compare this to. Remember that when Solo finally came out, the overall reviews from both critics and audiences was not terrible. Most people would say, oh, it was not as bad as The Last Jedi. It was like a C movie, maybe. But even then, 64% of audiences liked it, gave it 3.4 out of 5, which I think is fair. To me, though, the number to look at is that user rating. Only 40,000 people left ratings. Keep in mind, for The Last Jedi, it was over 200,000 people. For bigger movies like, for example, Wonder Woman, it was over 100,000 people that left ratings. And therefore, what you can see is that the people that leave ratings, the number of people that leave ratings, also usually corresponds to box office, too. And so you look at this number and say, oh, the audience score is not that bad. But the user rating number is very low. And that does indeed correspond to what Rotten Tomatoes is saying, because before this movie came out, the want-to-see score, very similar to Captain Marvel. I don't even think Solo got this low, to be honest, but it was still low. Not a lot of people were wanting to see the movie, and guess what? They didn't. Sure, the people that saw it may have liked it, but overall, people stayed home. Again, you have $600 million worth of profit there, or $600 million worth of box office revenue that did not come in. Keep in mind, when you talk about the Disney Star Wars films, the lowest grossing films are Solo Star Wars Story, making less than $400 million worldwide, and then the next least amount, the smallest amount after that, is $1 billion from Rogue One: A Star Wars Story. So what you're talking about there is $600 million. And so if you're trying to say, oh, poor marketing led to that, poor marketing does not account for $600 million of revenue that just disappears. It just doesn't work that way. But what can you look to? Oh, wait, that's right. The 45% of people that did not like The Last Jedi. The 60% of people that said, oh, yeah, I'm kind of interested in seeing Solo Star Wars Story, but then end up not seeing it. Again, 40,000. It matches up. It works out. And then you look to the actual box office tracking numbers as well. Oh, yeah, let's go to the box office tracking. For some reason, somehow, some way, ProBoxOffice.com still has this $160 million opening weekend up for some reason, which just doesn't make any damn sense. With a $465 million cumulative as far as what it makes domestically. That's just unrealistic. I'm sorry, that's just unrealistic. I mean, seriously, all of these things are based on are pre-sales, but pre-sales don't mean anything. Pre-sales at the end of the day might account for and might be important with Thursday showings, but when it comes to the weekend, they really don't mean a whole lot, and I'll explain why in a little bit. But let's go to movies. Let's go to a movie. Oh yeah, that's right. Remember Solo Star Wars Story? Remember, oh my God, this movie, remember, was projected to make $140 million opening weekend. This film was out-tracking films like Infinity War. This film was, or not Infinity War at that time, but it was pacing and outpacing more films than anything else. Actually, no, it was not. This film was doing well with the pre-sale box office sales. And yet this film still did not make nearly as much. It made almost half of what it was expected to make. Because it had a holiday weekend, it only made $103 million. But keep this in mind. What did we know before going in? Oh yeah, we know the pre-sale numbers. But we also knew this. We also knew how many people were interested in seeing the movie. This number was exceptionally low, even though the long-range tracking was exceptionally high, and then we ended up getting an exceptionally low number. Do you see how there are connections here? Do you see how there are indeed ways in which we can connect and compare Solo: A Star Wars Story to Captain Marvel? You can definitely make a comparison. Now, am I saying that it's going to make this much money? I'll get to that once again in a second. Let's go into some more articles here. Captain Marvel could make less than we thought opening weekend. Even the media, at least some people in the media, are being honest, saying, hey, remember how we said, oh, it's going to make 140 to 180 million dollars? Maybe that's a little too much. And even a Cineblade, they said, oh, maybe it's going to be between 80 and 120 million dollars instead. And also, when they look to what Deadline says, and when you look to what everyone's saying, how do we get these pre-sale numbers? It's based off of a lot of factors. As it says here, one of those factors is the 109 million times in the first 24 hours that a trailer was viewed. Last time I checked, video views don't mean anything. Just because you watch a trailer for a movie does not mean you're going to watch it. Now, it might be able to show some sense of interest. It might be able to give you that kind of an indicator. But other than that, it's only going to give you just a piece of the puzzle. And then it talks about, the box office sales, the pre-sales are so high. Fandango, it is now the second fastest selling pre-sale movie on Fandango, right behind Black Panther. And yet people, once again, fail to remember and to realize that that does not matter. Now, am I saying that it doesn't matter at all? No. But if you're trying to say that that is the sole piece of information that you can look to predict the box office for the opening weekend, you're foolish. That's what they tried to do with Solo Star Wars Story, and look what happened. It just didn't make it. It just didn't make it. You have Marvel, Eyes Heroic, $100 million plus opening weekend. So not only do you have people saying, oh, it's going to be 160, $180 million, but then when they say, oh, the only person that was even honest about it was Cinema Blend, where they said it's going to make less than we thought. Variety tries to spin it and trying to say, oh, it's going to be heroic. $100 million plus opening weekend. It's going to be marvelous. It's going to be amazing. But what is this movie actually going to make? Getting into the box office, what does this movie look like it's going to end up making by, the opening weekend and also by the end of its run? And what factors are going to impact that? What movies can we actually look to? Because at the end of the day, the one thing I care about is history. Pre-sales can say so many things, and as we saw with Solo Star Wars Story, pre-sales do not mean anything. This film was outpacing huge projects. This film outpaced huge movies. And yet this film lost money. This film opened 30, 40, 50, 60 million dollars under the so-called long-range tracking numbers. And the reason why is because the interest for the film was very low because of The Last Jedi. Now, Captain Marvel did not come out after a bad MCU film. There have not been any bad MCU films yet. The last film that came out was Ant-Man and the Wasp, and that film overall did pretty well. Again, did pretty well for the box office. Not amazing, not billion-dollar film, but still, overall did very well. And so we look to this film, we say, okay, so how is it, what history can we look to really understand what this movie is going to make at the box office? All right, well, let's go into these numbers. I love to talk about China. That I think that China is a very important country to look to when it comes to box office success, because when it comes to a big budget film, normally China accounts for around a third of the overall gross for any given film. So let's go back a little bit. Let's go back to, as it says up here, 2017. Let's go back to a couple of movies. So first, we go to Spider-Man Homecoming, $116 million. Thor Ragnarok, $112 million. All right, good numbers there. Justice League, $106 million. Cool. What's number 26? Wonder Woman, $90 million. $90 million. Now, I would actually say that's successful. I would say that for a DCU film, that's very good. However, at the end of the day, you see that it's actually a lot less than what even Justice League made. $90 million. But Wonder Woman's a little bit different, and again, that's the reason why we're going to get into it. Let's go into some other movies. 2018. All right, let's see what some of the highest-grossing films there was. Aquaman, $298 million. Venom, $272 million. Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom, $261 million. The Meg, $153 million. Black Panther. Let's go into MCU here. $105 million. Ant-Man and the Wasp, $121 million. So as you can see, when it comes to MCU films and films in general, what you've noticed here, and what you can see very clearly as you go through these movies, when it comes to woke films, when it comes to films with controversy around them, China responds in a very guttural fashion. Keep in mind, Venom, terrible critic reviews, great audience response, they show out in gangbusters. Aquaman, same thing, bad critic score, excellent audience score, great anticipation, people ended up going to see the movie. Ant-Man and the Wasp, overall generic MCU film, so generic audience came out. But what about Black Panther? $105 million. I wouldn't say that's a terrible number, but it's much lower than all those other ones. Well, that's because there was some controversy early on about, is this film going to try and push forward some kind of race politics, race identity politics narrative? And in many of the articles that came out for it, guess what? They did. And so even though that was a very small, I mean, I would say that's compared to Captain Marvel, the controversy for Black Panther before it came out was very, very small in comparison. And yet, even that small amount was able to affect the movie enough to where it only made just over $100 million at the box office, just in China. All right, so what are some other Marvel films that we can look to? Okay, let's stop talking about China. Okay, what else can we look to here? Okay, all right, let's look to some other MCU films. What is Captain Marvel? Captain Marvel is the introduction to and the premiere, the debut of a solo character. All right? So therefore, it's only fair then to look to a movie that fits that same narrative. And many people in the media are saying, oh, Black Panther, let's talk about Black Panther. No. Black Panther is a different animal for a couple of different reasons. For one, Black Panther was not the first time you saw T'Challa. Black Panther was not the first time that you saw that character on the big screen. That character got a very, very good introduction in a previous film called Captain America Civil War, or essentially The Avengers Jr., which did very well and also introduced the character. So that you can't compare it to because Black Panther was featured in another movie. Add on top of that the second point, which is that the African-American audience in the United States showed up crazy for this film. Note, this is the highest grossing film domestically out of the entire MCU. This made more than Infinity War. Infinity War made over almost two times as much as Black Panther did overall. And yet it made more domestically. The reason why that number is so high is because the African-American community loved the movie and showed up for it like crazy because they wanted to support it because they thought it was an important film to show love to. And guess what? The proof is in the pudding, as they say. But so therefore, if we can't look to that, then what other movies can we look to? Oh, maybe Spider-Man Homecoming. Look at that. Okay, that was been a reboot of a character that's been established in prior films, so we really can't look to that either. And so when it really comes down to it, the only movie that we can look to, the last movie that had an actual introduction to a character that had not already been pre-established, is Doctor Strange. Not nearly as impressive numbers. So let's see, we got $232 million domestically in its entire run. $85 million opening back in 2016. So if you adjust for inflation, you're looking at a little over $90 million for this movie. So if we compare it to that, if we compare it to Doctor Strange of which had very, very small controversy, because apparently there was some controversy over who the Ancient One was cast as, even though I think that was very good. I think it did very well overall. Still, this movie overall is probably the best one to look to. And yet, even though it didn't do as well domestically as some of the other films on there, did very well in the foreign market. Again, let's look to some of these numbers. China, $109 million. And this is with very minimal controversy. $165 million production budget. Guess what? Captain Marvel, $152 million production budget. You see why I'm using these two films in comparison? So taking this comparison to its logical conclusion, it would make sense then that Doctor Strange would be the best movie to look to for a, as far as being a predictor of what kind of money Captain Marvel realistically can make. And that would be $677 million. However, we cannot simply ignore the fact that people are not hyped to see this film. Let's see if it's updated since last time. It's still at 37%. We cannot ignore the fact that this is a very real situation, that people are not interested, are going to either actively boycott the film or simply just not going to support it. So if you take into account that, then these numbers definitely going to go down. Some people have been wondering, why is it that my range was 450 to 650 as far as the overall gross of Captain Marvel? Because that was my overall gross, was $450 million minimum to $650 million maximum. The reason why is because I looked at Doctor Strange and I said, okay, this is the only other movie that we can really compare it to, and therefore this is the only realistic number-wise that we can look to as well. And we see very clearly what it did there. Let's go ahead and look to what it did in the weekend. Opening weekend, $85 million with a 49.5% drop. I guarantee you, at this point, and here's my prediction for what I think Captain Marvel is going to do, because once again, we're using these numbers here. Because we indeed can point out that there are high pre-sale numbers, because we know that there are going to be people that are going to show up to this film opening weekend to try and make it seem like the film is going to be successful, I honestly think at this point, my prediction is that this movie, Captain Marvel, is going to make $90 million in its opening weekend. $90 million, and that would put it right on pace with Doctor Strange. Almost exactly on par with that number. However, looking to those China numbers once again, this movie is not going to break $100 million in China. Is my own personal prediction. China, and I've been told this by people who live in China, is very, very aware of SJW politics. They don't support it. They don't like it in their movies. And so all of this controversy is going to have a tremendous impact on the foreign market, especially China. I don't see it making over $100 million in China. And if that is the case, and China normally accounts for around a third of the box office, that means that you're looking at a gross of around $300 million as far as the foreign market is concerned. Okay, $300 million. How much do I think it's going to make domestically? Again, we looked at Captain Marvel's domestic totals, $232 million. So therefore, you're looking at, I'm thinking it's probably going to make a little bit more, to be perfectly honest, just because there are going to be enough woke people going out to support it. So let's say it makes $250 million domestically. Also adjust for inflation as well. That means that at the end of the day, my final prediction is that Captain Marvel is going to poop out at $550 million. That is my final prediction, my final projection of how much Captain Marvel is indeed going to make. It's going to have an opening of $90 million, and I base that off of, once again, Doctor Strange, the only realistic MCU film that you can possibly compare it to, taking into account the massive amount of controversy surrounding the film because of Brie Larson, taking all of these things into account, comparing them to the box office numbers for Doctor Strange, China's numbers, and how they tend to interact with MCU films in general historically, but also films that have even just a smidge of controversy surrounding them, comparing them to what we are being told and what we are being spun in the mainstream media. These numbers that are constantly changing, $90 million for opening, $550 million as far as the overall take. Now, some people might be asking, why is it that I have $90 million for the opening? Why don't I have it higher? Why don't I have it like $105 million? The reason why is this. When you look to the box office, as someone who actually worked at a box office, I lived inside the box office for like a period of 3 years. I used to work at a movie theater. I can tell you as a fact, most people on the weekend buying their tickets to see a movie buy them at the theater. They don't buy them in advance. So advanced ticket sales can tell you a very small piece, maybe a chunk of the overall picture that is the box office for any given film. However, it is not the entire picture, and the much larger one is people showing up on the day. And this controversy, this 37% on Rotten Tomatoes number, this is going to affect those people showing up on the day. Yeah, you might already have so many people buying those pre-ticket sales. But could it possibly be that those are people that were already going to support this film? Those are people that are already going to go see it, and now they're buying pre-sales to try and make it look like it's going to be much better than it actually is. Oh, look, no, it's not doing that bad. Look at all these records it's breaking in pre-sales. Also keep this in mind. It's second only to, it's only a second only to Black Panther in pre-sales. However, that's only according to Fandango. That's not even according to Atom Tickets or people who buy their tickets at the box office a day before, 2 days before. Guess what? A lot of people do that too. When you take all of these things into account, it's just not looking good. The facts just don't back it up. When you look to the fact that this movie cost a crap ton of money to make, that it's getting a wide release, that it is indeed only lining up with one other MCU film, and on top of that, there is a controversy around this film that has not existed in any other MCU in the history of the MCU. You're looking at a movie that, yeah, it might do okay. It might fall within the projections. Hell, is there a possibility that it makes over $100 million? Sure. Absolutely, it's possible. But what you're going to see is you're going to see a drop-off from week 1 to week 2 that's going to show that it was front-ended. The front end was extremely weighed down. And it was front-loaded very heavily, and they're going to see this giant, 60% drop from week 1 to week 2, maybe 50, 55%. And that's when the real numbers are going to come in. Then also you're going to get the China numbers coming in. Because guess what? We're going to find out very early on how well this movie is doing. Because guess what? It opens in China on the same day. And what the narrative is going to turn into is no longer, oh, look, the film is going to be great. It's going to turn into something very different. Instead, it's going to turn into, oh, man, well, maybe it'll still make as much as Wonder Woman did, right? $821 million? No. Because this film didn't have any controversy around it. That's why it did extremely well domestically and the foreign market. But look at that. This movie obviously was more important to American audiences than it was to the foreign market. If you think Captain Marvel is going to be more important to foreign audiences than to the American audiences, you are stupid. Seriously, you're completely ignorant if you think people want to go see Brie Larson on the big screen more so than they did Wonder Woman. Logistically, that just doesn't work out. And guess what? The production budget is around the same amount of money. So where Wonder Woman succeeded was the fact that it focused on the movie itself. Keep in mind, too, Wonder Woman did not have this amazing, incredible opening weekend. The reason why Wonder Woman did so well domestically and foreign is because it had staying power. Because when people saw it, they said, this is actually a really good DC film. The fact that this film even made $800+ million at the box office is just a testament to how well they made this movie. Because it already had to come out in the shadow of the DCE universe. I don't know why I said DCE universe. But look, the week 1 to week 2, a 43.3% drop. Very small. Didn't drop out of any theaters from week 1 to week 2. That's incredible. That's because you had Gal Gadot. That's because you had a person out there that was supporting the film, that was selling the film on its merits. What do you have on the other side? Oh, wait, that's right. You have Brie Larson. And yes, she was apparently trying to become a singer at one point in time, and you can find that on YouTube. But you have an entitled white woman. You have an entitled person who is preaching to others saying, oh, I'm taking care of you. Oh, I don't hate white men. I promise I don't hate white men. I don't hate white men. And all of this is affecting the interest in this film. Because the other lie that the media will tell you is that, oh, they're review bombing. These are not reviews. Literally, this is what you see. Can I pick interested or want to see it or not interested? All this means is only 37% of 28,000 people want to see this movie, meaning many more people chose not interested. And yet you keep hearing review bombing, and yet at the end of the day, these are not reviews. These are people literally saying, I don't want to see this. Probably going to pass on this one. I don't fight wars. I end them. How do you end a war without fighting in it? The line says it all. No, thank you. These are people who say they have no interest in seeing the movie. That is not the same thing as people saying, oh, this movie isn't good. No. These are people saying they have no interest in seeing it. And when you look at this number and you compare it to what they did with Solo: Star Wars Story and how that affected the box office numbers, I'm sorry, like, at the very best, this movie makes $650 million. At the very best, with this controversy. But again, $90 million opening, $550 million total. What are y'all guys' thoughts about this? Seriously, I know this is a very long video, but this is a video that needed to be made. We needed to talk about the facts. We need to talk about what we actually know. We needed to talk about what this film is actually going to make. Not using, oh, the algorithms and everything we're going to look to, oh, you know, the way that the pre-sales are working out and Fandango numbers. No. We're going to look to history here. And history is not on Captain Marvel's side. And I know that people are going to say, are you going to eat crow if this movie does well? No. Because I'm not denying that this film has potential to do well. This number could very well mean nothing. But historically, that just doesn't work because Solo: A Star Wars Story, they said the same thing. Oh, all of these people review bombing Solo before it comes out. It's not going to have an impact. Yet $600 million just disappeared. So I base my thoughts on history. And all you can look to for historical accuracies and historical trends and historical connections is Doctor Strange and what happened to Solo: Star Wars Story. Because at the end of the day, what you're going to have is you're going to have a film where this 1-to-see rating is going to continue to drop. I would not be surprised if Rotten Tomatoes even drops the 1-to-see rating or starts just to like delete it altogether. And if they do that, what they're going to do is they're going to just confirm in a lot of people's minds that this film is indeed not going to succeed. If you have to release 1,000 trailers, 1,000 different trailers, and none of them are able to get more people interested in this movie, you got a problem on your hands. And I only hope and pray that this does not hurt the future of the MCU. And that the MCU, Disney, is able to say and see very clearly, we can't do this anymore. We've already ruined one IP in Star Wars. We cannot do it again with the MCU. Love to hear your thoughts on it in the comments below. But seriously, I'm laughing. I'm laughing my ass off. Oh my gosh, you're so hateful. Oh, why are you so angry? I'm laughing. I'm happy. I love seeing SJW identity politics being shown truly how people feel about it. I love seeing this number. It makes me smile. It makes me laugh. Guess what? No one is stopping you from clicking that 1-to-see. No one is stopping you. These are not trolls. These are not bots. These are people just going over saying, I have no interest in seeing it. You can do everything. Seriously, SJW community, go right ahead. Click that 1-to-see button. It doesn't take long. Does not take a lot of time. No one's stopping you. And yet, you'll see very clearly that if and when this movie does not live up to the hype, if and when this movie does not make nearly as much money as they think it's going to make, what you're going to end up seeing is the narrative change from, oh, there were a bunch of racist and sexist, review bombing the film to, oh, because of those racist and sexist, people didn't go see it. And I would even go a step further. Not because of those racist and sexist, because of sexism in movies. That is why. And I can't wait to tear that apart as well. Anyway, guys, sorry again. Long-winded. Whew, I need to work on it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like this video, smash that like button, give it a thumbs up, give it a subscribe. You're all amazing, beautiful people. Seriously, what are your own predictions? Opening weekend total, mine is 90, 550. That is my final answer on that. We'll see how close I get. Could be a lot less. Could also be more. I'm never going to be a person that's going to say, well, according to my secret numbers, I have 100% accuracy on this. No. I'm literally just reading the trends, reading the market, and also looking at history. Because if you don't learn from history, you're doomed to repeat it. Have a great day, and as always, God bless.